Just noodling around. Killing time. So you gotta love to noodle. What is noodling, anyways? I mean, I don't really know. I guess noodling is when you're playing without purpose. Does that make sense? I would think so, right? Because usually when you pick up your guitar, a lot of times, um, hello. All right, let me just grab a phone here so I can better check my messages. Boo boo.
You've picked that up.
We immediately.
Canadians
Oh,
are not angry at the American people.
oh, go away. This guy never shuts up. Um, where are we here? So if we go live, it looks like we are here. All right, so why won't that let me click on that? Ugh. There's always something here. All right, well, let's try this phone. Oh, unbelievable. All right, so I'm just, as you know, I always have issues with my messages, so, there we are. There I am. Hey, it's me. Yay. Oh, balls. Where are we here? All right. All right. All right, so remember, guys, my messages are on sort of like a delay, I suppose, for lack of a better word, in that I can't really see them because they come up and they only stay for 3 seconds and they disappear. So, and I'm kind of a ways away from the tablet that's being used. So, I have a second device here that gives me my messages. So generally, what I do is I just go over the messages once in a while. Hello, Sigma. What are you doing? Hi, David. Barb. All right. So, I guess I'm going to give you. We're going to start off with a bit of a sneak preview to my next video that'll be coming out. I don't know, either later, probably not later today, because I gotta when I'm done here, I'm going to an open jam tomorrow that I've been asked to go to, and it seems that I have a few followers where I live. I didn't know that. And anyway, so I'm going to this open jam tomorrow, and it's a jam for seniors. And what I'm going to try to do is, you know, if everybody's okay with it, I'm going to try and get some footage of it. And I think it's great for you people out there at various levels, and it really doesn't matter where you're at. It really doesn't matter where you're at, because when you go to an open jam or something along those lines, you can just pick your spots. I mean, you're not forced to play, and you don't have to play if you don't know what you're doing, or if it's out of your league or whatever. You don't have to play. So whenever you're trying to find, because you should at some point. Sorry, I'm just wrestling with my earpiece here. At some point in your journey, you really got to play with other people. Now, it's not, 100% necessary, but it does help. And we can play along, as I do, with backing tracks quite a bit, or I make my own backing tracks and then play to them, or I record myself playing one of my songs and then I play to that, right? And that's all fine and dandy, but it's not the same as interacting with other musicians. Okay, I can't explain it 100%. There's just something about it. Now, remember, everything that we do when we play to backing tracks and, anything digital, songs on the radio, for example, everything is perfectly structured, right? So we know especially with backing tracks, if they're done properly, which most of them are, I can, from what I see, we know that it's going to be, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2. Like everything is going to be perfect. The timing is going to be perfect. And that's good because that's what we need, right? But when you're playing with other musicians, there's a chance. No, there's not a chance. There's a certainty that one, two, or many more of these musicians that you're playing with are going to be out of time. And that's just the reality, okay? Even in really good jams, like it's the one thing that I've noticed over the years that separates different levels of guitar players or musicians in general. Because, like I've told you, I mean, there's only so many ways someone can show you in a video, how to play this chord. Or, hey, JVI, how are you? Um, there's only so many ways you can watch videos on how to play this and how to do that, and how to do this way, and how to do it that way, and all that kind of stuff. At the end of the day, it's up to you to take that information and build on it and polish it and, well, make it your own and make it good, right? So it's just because you watch something, or even if you're taking lessons in person, it's not going to guarantee anything. You still have to take what you were shown and the knowledge you were given, and you have to apply it practically to your guitar. And when you go to these jams, that's when you can. There's one thing that sets everybody apart: their timing. And I haven't been to many where somebody or more than one are brutally out of time. Okay, so you might be playing and you're going to a G chord, and you're already 2 beats into it, and then you hear others going to the G chord because they're following somebody who's following somebody who's following you. Okay? So there tends to be even a slightest delay between the person who's following you and the person that's following them who's following you, and then the person who's following them who's following them who's following you. Get it? So, it can get really, really out of hand. Okay, now what do I mean when I say following? Well, okay, so following, everybody drags their heels. The key is, Randy, you just got to find one that fits, and that goes for everybody because they're not all created equal. And kind of that's what we're going to talk about at the first part of this, is just getting you guys out to playing with other people, even at a low level. So if you can only play 3 chords, you can still go out and play with others. Okay? You're just going to have to sit some stuff out. And depending on the group, some groups are, well, they're a little bit finicky about that. Like, they want people there of a certain level. And that's just, I mean, it's not right, but it's just the way it is. I mean, you're going to get all kinds. Most of these groups are so welcoming and supportive that once you go, someone there, if you have liabilities or limitations, someone there will pick up on it and you will never be hung out to dry. Okay? That's just the way it is. But the key is to find the right type of group that fits you. Okay? Sometimes it's based on age, but don't be deceived, because I've been to jams where it's been, a senior citizens jam, and there's been a lot of really good players there. Okay? And I've been to young jams where, I mean, it was spaghetti. It was terrible. It was a mess. So don't think of that as an age thing. It really comes down to everybody's comfort level, right? So the thing about the timing is that, to me, that's the biggest indicator. So when I look around the room and I see what's going on, you can generally pick out the people that are probably more experienced or more advanced than others based on timing, not the quality of their chords, or maybe there's a guy doing little fills in between and stuff. That means really nothing. It's the timing of people, right? There's quite a few good beginner acoustic guitar brands. Okay, you don't want to go too cheap. If you go too cheap, you're not going to sound good right off the bat. If you go too cheap, and if you go too expensive, which you can never lose when it comes to quality, no matter what brand name you buy, you're taking the risk of purchasing something over $1,000 or $2,000 that you're only going to use for 6 months. And then the novelty wears off, or you decide it's not for you, or you're not very good at it. So you abandon it. And now you've got a $2,000 ornament sitting in the corner of your living room so people can go, oh, you play guitar? Okay. So you got to be careful there. So you don't want to go too cheap, because I'm going to tell you, you will not sound good, and it'll be a difficult guitar to play because the cheap guitars generally are good for about 4 frets. And after that, the strings raise up too high, and it's just hard to play and move your way up the neck, right? Some of you will never get up that neck, so it's really irrelevant. And that's not a knock, it's just the way it is, right? Some of you, I'm included, I play up here all the time, so I mean, I care if my action is high here because I do play up the neck, but there was a point in time I really didn't care. So cheap guitars may give that. They'll give you an impression that you don't sound right. And you may not know until you play with somebody else, which is kind of what we're talking about, and they have a good guitar. And you can hear the voicing and the tone and everything that they're getting against you. And quite frankly, it makes you sound like you're out of tune. You're not, but it makes it sound like you're out of tune because it's a really bad sound. It's not a good sound. So anything by, you know, lower end Takamine, some people call it Takamine. It's the guitar that I think you'll see the Eagles use, the bon Jovi uses them. They're Japanese guitars. They're very good guitars. In fact, they were the first people to put electronics in the guitar. A lot of people don't know that. They stole a Martin, brought it over to Japan, ripped it apart, rebuilt it, and they put electronics in it. And so they were the first to put electronics in an acoustic guitar. I should have clarified that. Yamaha is another one. You can get a $500, now I'm talking American or Canadian, we're close, we're not way off. I mean, a $500 guitar in the States is probably a $600 guitar here, where I live. And so, you know, I know it's a little confusing, but a $500 Yamaha will more than suffice. There is a guitar company, I think it's Godin, Godin. They may or may not be originally Canadian, but they have under their umbrella brands like Siegel, Simon and Patrick, Art and Lutherie. These are all good budget guitars. For a few $100s, you're getting as quality as you can guitar. And that's what I recommend. Okay. Now, if you want to go out and spend money with confidence that you're going to stick with it, go for it. That's the way to do it. Rip the Band-Aid off, buy the good guitar right off the bat, and maybe that'll be incentive to stick with it. Okay. Because you, from day one, will be hearing good things, good notes, good vibrations, good chord tones, everything will be there. And if and when you start to play up the neck, you won't have to worry. It's all going to be ready for you to play, if you can. So Yamaha, the Siegel brand, Siegel, Godin, Art and Lutherie, Simon and Patrick, Ibanez, Yamaha, yeah, Yamaha for sure. As far as good low end to it's, it's a trap. you will end up with more guitars. That is just the way it happens. Okay. Especially once you know you're rolling. So again, if you buy too cheap, you won't get the good sound right away, and it could inhibit you and stop you from getting better. You can go to the next level of inexpensive, and that's fine. The only issue is maybe a year out, you'll end up buying that expensive one anyways. As Randy said, you never have one. You always are going to have two or three or more. And you're going to buy that $2,000 guitar that if you'd have bought it when you should have, it was only maybe $1,500. It's now 2,000. And you know what I'm getting at. You're going to have to but that's okay because we like to have a good guitar that we practice and play with, and then someone invites you over to a campfire. Well, you're not going to bring your $2,000 or $3,000 Martin or Taylor or Gibson to a campfire. You really shouldn't. So you're going to bring your $400 or $500 Yamaha or your Siegel or your Takamine, right? Yeah. So a $300 guitar there is probably four and change here, and he's right. That Yamaha, I've known people. I've never had one myself, but I know people that have had them, and I've played them. And when I was starting out, I didn't. Before I bought my first guitar, I played my friend's cheap Yamaha, and it was just fine. And even after I bought I went cheap for my first guitar, and I would play other people's Yamahas, and I would always say to myself, "Wow, this is a really big upgrade to the one I'm playing." And mine was just a no name. It was actually called a Beaver Creek, and it was a no name low end guitar. So Yamahas, you can't go wrong. So if that helps, there you go. But again, the philosophy: try to think ahead. You know. So your dilemma is, and you know what? If you never buy a good guitar, that's okay too, because the Yamaha will be, or anything in those brands that I mentioned for $400, $500 or whatever, you won't generally go wrong, and that guitar will last you a lifetime. Okay. So again, when we're talking about going to these open mics and open jams, now there are two different types of these things. Okay. Now you have so what David is saying is it doesn't matter how many guitars you own, and it doesn't matter what make of guitar you own. At the end of the day, if you can't play them or don't play them well, they're not going to sound good. So he's saying there's no guarantee that if you buy a good guitar, you're going to sound good. And unfortunately, David's absolutely right. Um, um, oh, Cordoba, yeah. Uh, well, Jonas, that depends on you, okay? On what type of music that you're going to play. That's the reality. So when we don't know anything, we don't know anything. And sometimes that's good. We walk in, we buy the guitar, and we come home. But if you know what you're going to do, that helps. Okay? So I mean, you may be more comfortable with a nylon string guitar, like a classical guitar. Now, those are built a little differently, like they tend to have wider fretboards, and nylon strings are differently. Those are the ones with the slots in the middle where the strings wind around as opposed to winding around a peg. So, nylon strings are so different to steel strings or nickel wound or whatever they're called. And that's something you'll have to decide. I think if your goal is to be a picker and maybe you want to play some slide guitar, uh, you want to be a front guy, like you want to be a lead guy, then I would go with an acoustic electric with nickel strings or steel strings. You may want to go with a hollow body, like John Lennon had, with just the two slits here, and it looks like kind of an acoustic, but it's thin like an electric, and they're called hollow bodies. You may want to go with that. So, what type you go with is up to you. You got to really know what you're doing if you buy a specialty guitar, meaning if you want to buy like a dobro or a national steel guitar based on the pedal steel type of playing, then that's a whole different ball game than buying an acoustic guitar. So like they're also called resonating guitars. So they have that metal, looks like a hubcap on them, and it creates a whole different sound. And a lot of times those are played like this. Okay, so they're played like a pedal steel, otherwise known as slide guitar, where you have a tube in your hand and you pick the notes and you run the tube over it. So that's a whole different thing, right? So I would probably, if you don't know what kind of guitar player that you want to be yet, I would go with a traditional, everyday steel string acoustic electric guitar because that allows you the versatility, even though I'm not plugged in, of plugging in. And now you can attach pedals, effects pedals. You can go into EQ units to make your guitar, you can adjust the sound to it. You go into looper pedals. You can go into mixers. You can go anywhere, into your computer. Okay? If you don't have a plug, like if you cannot, if it's not an electric acoustic, then what you can do is what I'm doing now, is you have a microphone, a quality microphone that sits by your sound hole, and that's how you will be able to record or do something with your acoustic guitar. So it simulates it being plugged in, and it's actually, depending on the pickups you have in your guitar, this sounds generally, if it's a good microphone, will sound better than if you're plugged in. But again, that all depends on the inner workings of your guitar. Um, Oh, nice, Jonas. Yeah, Ovation. Yeah, there's a name that we don't always hear about, but they're very popular guitars. They're different. Some say they look kind of weird, but they are really interesting guitars. I've played a couple of Ovations, and they're really good. They're really nice to play. So there's another, and I don't think they're over. They can be overly expensive, but I think they also have some lower end models as well. Um, Yeah, that's a good point, Job. Um, yeah, so uh, Job has made a very good point here in that nylon strings are easier to play. But are the other way to look at it is, are you kind of just delaying the inevitable? You might as well get it out of the way, get the pain out of the way, start building the calluses on your fingers so that you don't have that issue anymore. Because unless you're going to play nylon strings forever, um, you're still going to, when you are probably going to get a bit of callus from the nylon strings or a little bit of resistance buildup. But then when you switch and go fully nickel or steel, um, y- you're going to be sore again. But that is a good point. The other issue, I've never tried putting nylon strings on a traditional acoustic guitar. Now, the guy to ask would be Jeff if that's even possible to use the way we string these guitars, if we could just put a nylon set on, if it would work. I've always wondered about that. Um, and uh, well, a Martin D10 will definitely do it. That's right, JVI, absolutely. Yeah, you guys, I mean, as you can see, there isn't one way to do it. Just like there isn't one way to do a lot of things on guitar, right? So there isn't one guitar to buy when you're starting. There isn't one type of strings to use. Everybody has an opinion based on experience or theoretical ideas, okay? The one issue with the nylon slotted guitars is they're they're different. They're very boxy. So when you get hold of your guitar, it feels Well, it feels like you're holding a wooden slat, like like a pallet. The slats they make the pallets out of. It's big and it's square, right? And it and it just, I mean, look at Willie Nelson's guitar. That's what it is. That one with the big hole in it, right? That's a slotted nylon string guitar. Whether I'm not sure what kind of strings, he uses on it, but it's the fretboards tend to be flat and they tend to be wide, and it's a whole different thing going on because those guys usually play. A lot of those guys play like this, okay? And I never really knew why, and I really still don't know the complete answer, but I think part of it has to do with how wide the fretboard is. And it's just a lot easier to play the guitar at an angle as opposed to straight up because of the size of the fretboard. I'm only guessing. Okay. Uh, so I think just checking some of your comments here. Oh, okay. Oh, hey, thanks for letting us know there, L Lewis. Thank you. Okay, that answers my question because I wouldn't have thought that. I would have thought that it would have been easier on your fingers. And as I said, you're still going to get a little bit of buildup, but I didn't think it would be as intense. So thanks for clearing that up. Um, okay, so there's our thing about guitars, and at the end of the day, what I tell anybody, some people have written me like emails asking, "Hey, I'm going to the guitar shop. What should I be looking at?" And at the end of the day, that answer is up to you. Um, I've never gone looking for a particular guitar. I've just gone and I play around and I find something that works for me, right? And not everybody is going to like this fellow here, Dan. I hate nylon strings. There you go. I'm not a fan of it either, but I've never given it an honest effort. Like I've gone into a guitar shop, picked up a nylon string, doodle around with it, put it back. Nah, it's not for me. But I've never spent any time, refining it and really getting into knowing it. So my my opinion is irrelevant, right? But what I do know is that you should buy your guitar based on how it works for you, how it feels, how it sounds to your ears, okay? How comfortable it is for you to play. You know how many times I've had a guitar, someone go, "Oh, what a sweet guitar, so easy to play. Check it out, Ray." And they give it to me and I start playing around with it. I'm like, "Really? I don't see it." But okay. Um, yeah, I mean, buy what you can afford. Some people are governed by quality. Some people are governed by, or like self-governed by quality and self-governed by expense, philosophy. Like I said earlier, do I buy a cheap one now and a good one later, or do I just jump in and buy the good one now and I don't have to worry about it later, and all that kind of stuff. So that's really up to you. Okay. But whatever guitar that you buy or get, you deal with it and you play it. And knowing, as Randy said, down the road, there's probably going to be another one or two. Oh, okay, three. No more than four. Okay, there's no more than four. Okay. Now, the fifth one, that's different because you're kind of starting all over again, right? But that's where it ends. Okay. Now, if you go to six guitars, which you can do, well, okay, then you might as well go seven. So when you're at seven guitars, then you can pretty much say, okay, I got everything covered. So when you get the eighth guitar, there's no pressure. You can buy anything you want. And of course, if you're at eight, well, I mean, you're only two away from 10. Now that's perfect because it's a round number, right? You got a one and a zero. So, hey, Ray, how many guitars you have? I got 10. It's a perfect number. Because if you say I got eight, then the person might be going, well, why don't you just get 10? Right? So there you go. That's how it works. Uh, all right. So we're talking about open mics and open jams, and what separates from what I see of all the ones that I go to is generally little things like timing. Okay. Now, of course, you can tell if someone's new because maybe their chord playing isn't as crisp, and it's not as fluid, and they're playing more real basic songs and things like that. That's cool. Nothing wrong with that. But for the most part, when you got a bunch of people playing that are seemingly on the same level, like they all seem to be knowing what they're doing, you'll find that the timing thing. Now, how many times I played with people, maybe just six people, and we all know each other, and someone will be playing, and someone will say, hey, somebody's out of time here, okay? And all of a sudden, they used to point to me because I was the lowest guy on the totem pole. I was the new guy. So they make me think it was me, but I'm thinking, no, it wasn't me. Like, yeah, all right. So that's something that unless people were recorded and then you sat in a room and you broke everybody's part down and you listened to everybody, then you can find out who's out. But that doesn't happen. I mean, you'd have to be really into OCD and really, intent on being right or wrong to go to those lengths. Usually we listen and we go from there, right? But timing is very important. But when you go to an open jam or an open mic, there are two different types, okay? Um, Narrow it. Oh, nice. Is there any, L. Lewis, can you, do you have any recommendations on a certain type or a brand of guitar or a guitar in general that you can tell us what you're talking about as far as the brand so that, like I'd like to source one out and see what it's like because I've always been interested in the nylon strings and I didn't want to go down to a ukulele. So if you could at some point send out what you think or, a brand name so that I can maybe next time I'm out and about, you know, I've got a road trip planned for this weekend where I'm going to hit a couple of guitar shops out of my area. So a Cordoba Fusion 5. Okay, I will remember that. Fusion 5. All right. So when you go to these open mics or jam, now there's two things. So an open mic would be best suited for those of you that want to play on your own but for an audience. Okay? And more specifically, probably more tailored to those of you that are singers and or singer-songwriters. I use open mics myself, and I do that if I've written a song, and once I get it to the point on my own where I think I've got it all worked out, then I'll take it to an open mic. So now we have the added pressure of an audience, of adrenaline, of nervousness, of anxiety, all those things that factor into your guitar playing. Because when you're sitting at home, you're an expert, right? Because there's well, dance like nobody's watching you. That's exactly it, right? So, open mics, the way they work is you get your 15 minutes or whatever it is, okay? Each one is different. So, somebody says, you got two songs or 10 minutes. You can play one song over 10 minutes. You can play four songs over 10 minutes, right? But it's either or. So usually it's two songs, 10 minutes, and it's somebody else's turn. And then when they've gone through everybody, they'll offer, let's go back and you get one song and we'll keep it moving or whatever. Every open mic is different. Some will say, you got 15 minutes and that's it. Do what you want. So everybody's different. But open mic is the mic is yours and only yours. Now, if you want somebody in the back to come up and play with you, or you brought a friend, or you know somebody that's there, then you can call up anybody you want. Now, don't get burnt like I did when I didn't know any of this. So I'd written my first song, and I'm feeling pretty good about it. And then I go to one of these open mics to test it out, right? And this guy, nice guy, he's talking to everybody. Yeah, it was a nice guy. And we got talking a little bit. And he said, right? Oh, call me up when you go up and I'll help you out. I didn't know what that meant. Okay. So I get called up and he automatically comes with me. And I didn't know what to say. And I said, well, okay. So he gets his guitar and he's getting ready and we're going. And it turns out this guy is a train wreck. Okay. So, first of all, like I'm playing a simple, this was the song I was playing, right? So, it went C, A minor, C, E minor, right? This guy gets up and he's and he's not even in the right key. And he's loud and he's turning it up and I can't hear myself and it was an absolute train wreck. Well, I learnt my lesson because then I watched him and he was doing the same with everybody, going up, kind of forcing himself into the situation. Don't do that. Don't do that unless it's somebody you know and somebody that knows what you're going to play and is going to play it properly. Then it could be magical. But if you don't know, don't do that. So generally, open mics, they might even have a full band, but they will say to you, do you want the band to play along? And that's up to you. Because me personally, even if I go there to play covers, there's probably a 90% chance that I'm going to play the song the way I want to play the song. And that might not be, in other words, I've made it my own somewhere along the road, and it may not have the same riff or fill or timing as the original version. I may decide to cut out a verse. I may have changed the lyrics to one of the verses, whatever, okay? And of course, any stranger is not going to know that. So they're going to play, the band is going to play the backing track, is what they're really doing, right to the album. So if you're not used to playing that song right to the album, there's going to be some conflict, right? So I'm just checking some messages here. I saw some come up. See, we're on the same wavelength, Dan. We're on the same wavelength. Okay. So an open mic, if you're going to go there, your goal is you want to play on your own. So you just politely, usually the MC will say, would you like the band? You just say no. And they're not offended. If they won't be offended. So, okay, no problem. And you got the floor. Okay? Don't let people hustle you into playing along with you and you feel obligated, because that should not ever be the case. So that's an open mic. Okay? Now, an open jam, there are usually two types, but they're all really the same. You're either going to have a preset person or a preset group of people that are going to be on the stage the whole night. Okay? Then everybody else. So what I mean by that is there might be four people. There might be a drummer, a bass player, a rhythm guitar player, and a keyboarder or a lead guitar player, but usually a keyboarder or somebody, because they usually leave the lead spots for people to jam to. So you're going to have like a backing band in some places, and they're not going to leave the stage. They're going to play, and they're going to determine what is played. They may take some requests, but for the most part, they're going to play. But anybody is welcome to come, plug in, or depending on the jam, sometimes it's all acoustic, sometimes it's plugged in, you have to bring your own amp. Sometimes they have, I went to one where they had 5 or 6 different amps, and all you had to do was bring a cable, and even if you didn't bring a cable, they still could figure, get you hooked up. So then what happens is you kind of move in and out as the band plays for 2 hours, and you kind of do your thing. Now, the other type of open jam is where it's like a song circle. Those are the ones I generally end up going to, maybe because I don't know of any others in my area, but or without having to drive away, a long way to get there. But we'll call this one like a circle jam. All right. So everybody is sitting there in some sort of an array, usually like a big circle or something, and it goes around the circle. So when it's your turn, you can do whatever you want. You can play a cover song, you can play an original song, or a lot of times what I do, I just play the 12 bar blues. So I'll say, hey, I'm going to play the 12 bar blues. Anybody and everybody is welcome to jump in. Obviously, it's a jam, and it's in the key of, and I'm going to have a turnaround at the end, or I'm not going to have a turnaround. I let people know, right? And then I just start playing like a 12 bar, you know. You know, whatever, right? We all know whatever it is. And that's what I do. Okay. So when I go to those kind of jams, I don't go there with thinking I'm going to play a cover song or sing a song. I'm going there to play my guitar with other people or have them play their guitar with me. So when it's your turn, you can do what you want. When it's not your turn, you can play along. Now, the unwritten rule, like anything, is you don't want to go in there, being an idiot, right? You don't want to go in there and you don't really know what you're doing and you're not playing in the right key, like what happened to me. You've got to be respectful. If you can't add something positive and constructive to what's already being played, then you probably shouldn't play at all. Just sit it out and wait for the next song. Maybe it's something a little more friendly. But unfortunately, there's still some that even though they don't know what they're doing and they don't play in that key and whatever else reason is going on, but they still got to play their guitar. Okay, you're always going to get that. But those are the jams that are good because those are the ones that really, if you're in a room where there's a lot of spaghetti going on, where everybody's jumping in and and it's just really, it's a mess. That's not bad because what it does when you're playing, it forces you to bear down and concentrate on what you're doing. So I've been to places where I've sung a song and played a song, and I can hear 17, 20 other people murdering that song, like beyond murdering that song. And if I listen to them too much, then I forget what I'm doing and it throws you off. So, which I used to happen to me all the time. But eventually you just sort of, you zero in and you focus like never before. And you literally go against everything that I've always told you, which is, right, when you're playing with someone, you got to start using your ears and your brain and you got to listen to what they're doing and respond to it accordingly. But in this case, I'm telling you, shut her down. Like literally go back to day one of playing your guitar when every sense you have is focused on that C chord that you're trying to learn to the D and nothing else matters. Okay? So when you go to those jams, it's not a bad thing that they're all playing all over the place because it forces you to listen. Um, yeah, you know what? What I would recommend, Barb, is 2 songs. Okay? Now remember, when you go to these open mics and stuff, most people, they bring along their phone or their tablet or sheet music. Like they'll have a binder and they'll go up and they'll usually have a music stand. You can bring your own, but there's usually one there. And you'll put your stuff there. So when you're sitting there doing your thing, you can actually follow. Now, I mean, I don't always recommend this, but I understand it and I've done it myself. But what I would recommend, if you can, is bring a backup, like bring a phone or a tablet or a piece of paper with your stuff on it and have it there, but don't refer to it unless you have to. Okay, so have it well laid out so you're not looking like it's not a big chicken scrawl, like have, first verse and then have a space and then chorus and a space, and so that you can identify it, write it big or type it out big or whatever you're using, so that you can easily find where you are. And then I would refer to that. So if you're playing at the end of a verse and there's a couple of little chords you play, use that time to just take a peek. What's the first line of the next verse? That's all you need. Oh, yeah, okay. Well, I've been running down the road trying to loosen my load, right? And as soon as you get that first song or two, everything kicks in. And that's where I would be, Barb, if you're going to do these things, is make sure you know one or two. Two's better because then you can play more than one song, right? You're not one and out, okay? So if you learn two songs by memory, simple songs, right? I know this one isn't a 3-chord song, but for me, one of the first songs that I took to an open mic was Knocking on Heaven's Door. Mama, take this badge from me. 3 chords. Now it's a different 3. Or I should say, like, there's one different chord, but it's a different chord progression. So it's G, D, A minor for 2, and then G, D, C, and then the C is on 2, and then G, D, A minor, G, D, B, C. That's it. That's the whole song. No bridge, no changes, no key changes. Pretty simple, right? Um, yeah, you got to have a couple. If you rely on your phone, that's okay. But remember, you'll play better music overall. I'm not talking about this one instance of an open mic, but overall, you'll play your guitar better if you play it instinctively and fluidly and play with what comes from you as opposed to trying to read and play. Okay? I'm just letting you know. Um, yeah, I mean, if possible, try to memorize. But if not possible, like I have a friend of mine who is in a band, plays, sings, and writes, and he has an issue with his eyes. Like he can't legally pass any eye exams, so he can't drive or anything like that. And he wears like these hugely thick goggles and still can't see. Like if you walk by him 20 feet away, he won't know who you are. This poor guy's got to memorize everything. And he's getting close to 60 now. And he's been memorizing stuff forever. So it's an added pressure because he can't, even if he wanted to, he doesn't have the ability to use a phone or a tablet. He just can't see it, right? So um, actually, Jeff, that's sort of an open mic when you're on the beach, right? In a way. Sometimes do you get other musicians show up and you guys play along, or do you start playing and everybody just kind of sits around you and next thing you know you're entertaining? So in a way, kind of like an open mic, but I know what you mean. Um, JVI, that is what you just described is everybody. Like there's very few people I know that, and I'm included in this, is that can just, pick up the guitar, especially in your first few years, and just confidently rip it in front of people they don't know. That's like a skill in itself. I like to think I can do it now, but yeah, like that's tough. You're not alone there, right? Um, uh, Jeff's the cool one here. Remember that, right? Okay. You guitar building, food cooking, player, you. Um, well, well, yes and no. You get some open mics where no, because there's generally no requirement. And sometimes there is. Sometimes they'll say, for intermediate players only, or it's very rare. These places generally that do these open mics, it's just as much about business as it is about the music. Now, for the people running the open mic, it's all about the music for sure. But the bar or coffee shop or whatever that employs the person to run the open mic, it's about business. And they don't give a darn if people show up and they're not really that good, as long as they spend money and as long as there's other people there spending money. So remember that, right? So when I go to open mics, I don't think well, I have. I've been to a couple that were like, I looked around and like everybody was just rocking, like it was good. Anybody that went up to the stage was like, holy jumping, this guy's good, or geez, she's good. But normally, nah, you get a bit of everything. You get all the noobs. You get people in there that had a few too many drinks to settle down, and they get up there and it doesn't quite go as planned, and they stop, they forget the words, and they stop the song, so they're playing, you know, knock, knock, knocking on heaven. Oh, 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 I forgot. Okay, I'm going to start again. Bear with me. That happens a lot. Okay, so don't worry. And I'm going to tell you, this don't matter what country you're in, where you're from. People that run these things are really good people. There's no, you know, there's no, how would you say it, snobbery or hierarchy or nothing like that. Okay. What happens is in your area sometimes you'll have a certain open mic that gains a reputation. And that might put some people off. So the reputation might be, oh, yeah, we're going to go to the so and so open mic and it's good. Meaning, if you're going to play, you kind of think you better be good to fit in. So, not unlike for those of you that play recreational sports, beer league, softball, or baseball, or football, or hockey, or whatever it is, right? They try their best to keep the groups in the same levels, but it doesn't always work. Sometimes you show up and there's those three guys that think that they're still got a shot, and they're running around the ice doing everything. And then there's some that, well, they can barely skate. And that happens. So it's the same with the open mic thing too. But um, uh, you know what? The beer thing for me, I only played a few years while I was drinking. I haven't had a drink for 7 years. No reason other than just I just had enough and it was done for me. But I used to think that. I used to think that if, after 6 or 8 beers that I sounded really good until I bought my first recorder, which I think I have it right here. Until I bought my first recorder, um, the Zoom H2N, right? And I set that up on a little tripod or whatever, and I played. And one night, I had it on. A bunch of us were together having our little parties, and I ended up recording and then listening to it when I was sober. Well, I got to tell you, not only me, but everybody there, we thought that night, hey, that we're onto something here. We're playing something pretty darn good. And then you hear it back and you go, oh my Lord, what am I doing? So the booze or whatever is not always a good idea. But again, that's up to you. A couple of drinks, take the edge off, give you a little courage. Hey, maybe there's nothing wrong with that, right? Whatever it takes to get you to that point where, well, dance like nobody's watching you, I suppose. So. Tequila. Yeah, you are so right. Gummies work. They can work, but I think if you have the wrong kind or if you take too many or too much, it could start making you paranoid that everybody's laughing at you or something. Right? Uh, Yeah, I can relate to all those comments, and I'll leave that up to you as to how you decide you want to go with this. But open mics and open jams are fantastic ways of building your skill level. Uh, they're also great for watching other people because if you play at home all the time, you're never around any other musicians, only on YouTube and places like this. And I've always told you, you can't always believe what you see. And like I tell you about these videos, I mean, a lot of times you don't know how many takes that person did that video to show you. Might have tried it 20 times before they got it right to show you, right? Or you don't even know nowadays if they're even playing. In fact, a lot of these were, oh, especially those videos where the guy's in the middle of the woods or he's on a desert island or a beach and he's playing, but you're hearing studio quality sound coming from an acoustic guitar in a park. Well, they're not playing that live. What they're doing is they've cut that through a digital audio workstation, and then they're basically making a video. They have that in their ear, in their earpiece, and they're just replaying along with it. And then they just mute out the sound from the live video and go with the sound from, well, you guys know. But my point is don't get taken in by that stuff, right? You know? Yeah, I know. I agree with you, Randy, 100%. We have things in our areas called legions. Well, I don't know if it's the American Legion for you, but ours is the Royal Canadian Legion. Those are really good places because there's no servers, there's no pressure to drink. You don't even have to. I usually buy, what I normally do is I'll buy myself a soda water and lime or something. And then if a lot of times I'll know somebody there and I'll buy them a drink. So that way I'm supporting the establishment. So I'll buy a drink, buy them a beer, and I'll have a soda water, or I'll buy the bartender a beer, plus a tip. So I'll say, if you want, have yourself a shot. Here's your $5 for the shot, and here's your tip or whatever. And then I've helped out. Like I'm not going to sit there drinking water in someone's establishment. But again, that's up to you to decide. But that's, I always at least try to spend something. But you're right, Randy. But a lot of these places, you can find open mics. Like we had one here that was in a library every 2 weeks, coffee shops, or small little kind of like bistro restaurants where you can go in and have a beer, or you can go in and have a meal with a glass of wine. They'll often have open mics. So it's not always a bar, but I understand exactly what you're saying. And unfortunately, we can't really do it online because of the buffering, right? You can't play online, live. I'm sure there is certain software somewhere, but you can't really do that. So, yeah, and that's an issue. If you're in a small area, you might have to travel, and sometimes it's just not. I agree with you. I don't go to many anymore. The reason I'm going tomorrow is it's an afternoon thing, which I like, and it is at one of these legions. And then, but other than that, yeah, I'm pretty picky as to where I go and stuff like that. Like, a lot of times I want to go, and right up until 2 hours before, and then I go, I look outside, and I'll just go down and play in my studio, and that's, but look, there's open mics and open jams are so important in your growth. So you decide what you want. So if it sounds to me, it's probably a little bit of both. I'd probably start out with an open mic and just go up on your own and play whatever song you've memorized or have the ability to have it out in front of you and you can play along. And I'm going to tell you, when I did my first song, I told you what it was. It was at a festival, well, a private festival, like an extended family thing. There was a couple hundred people there, but it was all private. People, like it wasn't a public thing. And I played this song with a help. Someone sang it, and someone was there to play over top me in case. But I did pretty good, and I played this song. On the first part of the journey, right? America, horse with no name. But it's trickier than they let you believe because there's only got two chords. The whole song is two chords, right? But the one chord is easy because it's an E minor. But that second chord is a weird chord, okay? And it's like it's a D11 slash F sharp 9 or some stupid, ridiculous name, okay? But all it is the E minor spread open. So here's the two E minor. We just spread those and take the string up and below the E minor and play those. So now we've got right? And that's the whole song. That's it. It's all about the vocals, right? See, I've been through the desert on a horse with no name, and da 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 da. That was my first song, and I think I pulled it off pretty good, right? So again, keep it simple. Practice, 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 so that you don't even have to think about it. And just go up and do your thing. And bring someone with you for support if you have to. But it's a very invaluable lesson to go to these open mics and jams. It's something I truly, truly recommend in order, it's for a lot of things. Because when I nailed that, well, I mean, to my standards, I nailed it. I felt completely different afterwards. Okay? So before that, I would never play in front of anybody. After that, all I wanted to do was play in front of other people or with other people. It really changed it. Now, my bubble burst sometime later, of course, as all ours do, but that's another story. But yeah, I've had my bubble bursted so many times. Okay? Can't even think about it, you know? Bye, Jeff. Oh, JVI, right. You're the cooking too, right. All right, buddy. Um, we have a few chefs here. I've got, there's a lady that joins us. Is it Catherine or is it Linda? I don't think it's Linda S., but somebody is oh, oh boy, I'd know the name, I think, but someone here is also a chef. Um, so I'm not sure which one that is, but um, beautiful, Dan. Do it. You do it. It's invaluable, okay? And you really find out about yourself. And don't judge if it's, if it doesn't go great, there could be other reasons for it, right? It might not be all you. Like I've gone to open mics where the sound was really bad. I couldn't hear myself. That, especially if you're singing, that's deadly. So now I'm much more picky as to where I go. I do some diligence, find out what the sound is like. Do they have stage monitors that I can hear myself? Because I sing. I go there to sing songs, and I need to hear myself. So I don't just go where, blind and go, okay, I'm going to come and sing two or three songs. Like I got to know what the setup is. Okay. So that's going to happen. It's part of the experience. But I've been to some great places. Online, you from a friend of a friend of a friend, you know how it works. And you see that there's, somewhere, I'll give you the city. I mean nothing to you, but a little city called Kitchener. There's, I know where that place is. Oh, that's tomorrow night. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to brush up a couple of these songs and I'm going to go over there. And I've had some great times going to these places. A Sunday afternoon, an hour away, I'll take a drive, right? And you meet good people. And as I was saying earlier, like it gives you an opportunity to meet and interact with other like-minded people. And you'd be surprised. You're going to find other people there that are maybe a little ahead of you, maybe a little behind you. And you can compare notes, right? And everybody's eager to show you things. right? Everybody wants to help somebody else. It's just a great atmosphere. And that's how you can learn little things like, things that I've told you, like, oh, okay, so you play your G this way, start playing it that way. And I think I've told you the story where I saw this guy do this. I'm like, oh my God, that sounded good. What's he doing there? And then I realized that he was playing scale notes to join his chords together. We call them walk-ups or walk-downs. But that's where the desire to do that. Because I saw it firsthand. This guy pulled his, is he any good? Nobody knows. I don't know. Who's this guy? I don't know. Did he come with Jeff? No, he came with Al. Oh, okay. What's going on? Let's see. And he pulls his guitar out, right? And the first thing he does, he's sitting there getting all warmed up. And I'm like, what's he doing? That sounds amazing, right? So I watched him, and then I got talking to him. And then another thing I learned at one of these is, we've talked about that many times, Dan. That's a fantastic way to start in that whole process of getting out there. Is the first step is to record yourself, not for any other reason other than to be objective and listen and say, hey, you know what? I need to improve on this, or hey, I'm a really good G chord player, or I'm a good rhythm player, or whatever, good and bad, right? So that's a really good idea. The other thing, and I've told you this way back when we were talking about strumming and strumming patterns, and one of the things, well, I mean, a lot of things slowed me down when I started because I knew nothing and I had very poor self-esteem as far as confidence goes. So not only did I know nothing, I kept telling myself that not only do I know nothing, but I'm not supposed to know anything because I'm new and I'm not a musician. And that stayed with me for years, okay? And one day I'm at one of these open jams, right? And this guy was playing, and he was so smooth. Like just the way he was strumming the songs. He was so nice to listen to, right? So he did a song that I was learning. And I thought it sounded really cool, way better than how I was learning it. So I said, hey, do you mind if I ask you a question about that song? Are you doing a down, 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 up, down? Or is that what are you doing there or whatever? And this guy looked at me like he went, like I had three heads. He said, hey, brother, I'm not sure what you're asking here, right? He goes, all I know is I'm just feeling it. I said, well, so you're not playing like to a strumming pattern? He said, brother, I haven't played with a strumming pattern for years. I just feel it and play what I feel I should play while I'm singing. And I'm going to tell you, not one, like two light bulbs went off, one on either side of my head. And I couldn't stop thinking about what this guy said. I go, you're not because up until then it was down, 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 up, down, down, up, down, or whatever the strumming pattern was, right? And I would stop because I did a down instead of an up, or I missed an up, right? And I'd go, I can't, I'm so useless. And I'd get down on myself because I missed one of the ups or downs, thinking that you got to be perfect. And then I find out that, and now how I play now, I don't adhere to a strumming pattern. What I do is, what I think this guy was trying to tell me was I play to the rhythm of my singing when I'm doing a song. Cover song, original song, it don't matter. I try to play to the way I'm singing. And if I'm singing like this, I'll play like this. Ho, let it ring out. Ho. Does that make any sense to anybody? Like if I need to stop, then I stop strumming. And if I need to start, I start. And if I need to go, if I feel I get a better sound going up, okay, then I'll play up. Ah, oh, 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 ah, yeah. That's not a strumming pattern that I know of. Or if it is, I'm maybe stretching it out or manipulating it, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. But I do know that when I stopped doing, again, singing to down, 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 up, 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 down, up, down, up, down. Now, I'm not saying I don't ever do it. I'm just saying when I stopped thinking that I had to mimic my strumming pattern or implement a certain strumming pattern for a song I was singing, once I got out of that, I went up. Like I knew I went up. I jumped a level. Like I'm like, oh, hey, I'm starting to sound better. And then maybe coincidentally or not, people started telling me I'm sounding better. Hey, man, I haven't seen you for a while. You sound pretty good. Yeah, it's good. I like that song you did. And it was 9 times out of 10, it was because I didn't stick to the script. It came from here. And you've often heard me do and say that. And what does that mean? Well, I don't know what it means. I'm being honest with you. I have no idea. All I know is if I feel that I got to pause, then I pause. And if I feel I got to go up instead of down, then I go up instead of down. I don't care what strumming pattern says. Okay? So that's when you go to these open things and you meet other people just like you that are starting out or that are just ahead of you or behind you or whatever, right? You got something. Now you're not alone. And these people are eager to learn from you, and you're eager to learn from them, and everybody learns from everybody at all levels. Okay? When I was starting out, there was a time for a period of time I was playing every Thursday night with really good guitar players. And I was just the kid in the room, right? I was the 52-year-old kid in the room. And they let me get out of the way, and then when I was done playing, then the real boys would come in and play, and I would just sit back and drink and listen, right, and wish. And that's the reality. And you're going to be around these people, but you're going to learn from these people because you're watching people do things that are better than you. So whatever they do is good enough for me too. So you see what I'm saying? And then here I am thinking I'm learning from all these people. And then you know how many times down the road goes, hey, Ray, we get on the subject and they go, do you have any idea how many little things I've stolen from you? And I said, what are you talking about? I've only been playing a year. Yeah, but you know, that thing you do here, I do that now. I'm like, oh, shit. Okay. So anybody can learn from everybody. And these are the kind of places that all happens, right? Randy, it's no different. Look, learning how to sing is no different than learning how to play guitar. You got to figure out the basics, and you got to put in the time and the work. And for me, that was my goal from day one. I wanted to sing and play guitar. But then I realized that the guitar was so daunting that I had to put all my energy into it. So for a couple of years, that's all I did was play guitar and not sing. So I just wanted to play chords. That's all I wanted to do. I wanted to play chords. And play them well. And sit along and play with the boys. That's it. And then every time I'd open my mouth when I'm practicing, my guitar would shut down. So I would know a song, and then I would just stop because I couldn't do two things at once. So one of these people at the open mics, we were talking, and I said, "Oh, I only play guitar right now. I don't sing, but I'd like to." Said, I could never sing either. I couldn't do two things at once. So what he said to do is hum or whistle, right? So when you're playing, so let's say you're playing a song, and I'm careful of, I don't want to play too many covers for too long because I'll get copyrighted here on the stream. But so if you can't sing, then start by humming. So da, 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 da. Or okay, so it's not as easy as it looks, but it's not as hard as singing. But what it does, remember we talked about the guitar foundation, left, right, ear, and brain? What it does is it forces your brain to allocate things to something else. Because up until now, everything is on your guitar playing. You're watching, you're listening, and your brain is, everything is focused on these two hands playing your learner's chords, your beginner's chords, your chord progression, your strumming pattern, the way you attack the strings. Everything is being scrutinized, analyzed, regulated, modulated by everything you got going on, what I call the guitar foundation, right? When we start to do something different, play harmonica, whistle, hum, sing, well, now we're that juggler. We got two balls and we're playing them pretty smoothly, okay? A lot of you can do this. And you can sound much better than that. But the minute you try to do something else, that's the same as the juggler adding a third ball. So two balls, no problem. Now he's adding a third ball. Oh, timing has to be different. Coordination is different. Everything is different. You'd end up dropping the balls. Oh, so you pick them up and you do it again until you don't drop them anymore. So the same thing when you're learning guitar, right? So you got your strumming. The minute you open your mouth, I don't know, but you either forget the chord or you mishit the chord and it doesn't work. And then you start feeling stupid, so you stop, right? Especially if someone's watching you. But remember this? Whatever, okay? I always use that analogy too because that is so hard to do when you first do it. But 10 seconds later, 30 seconds later, a minute later, 10 minutes later, you're doing it. And it's the same thing. So if I come home, which I did that night after talking to that guy, and you come home and you start, improvise. I know, I know. Just silly little things like that. It forces your brain to go, okay, this guy is serious. He wants to sing and play. So we better start allocating some RAM to the singing part or the humming part or the whistling part or the harmonica part or whatever you're doing. And believe me, I know it's not a technical answer or anything or suggestion. But it's the way it works. Rubbing and patting at the same time. You will get it, just like you will be able to talk and sing. I wrote a song one time, and I had been singing a little bit. Well, a little bit, right? And I wrote a song that I wanted to have a spoken intro, okay? So it was something like this, Oh, so Matty, yeah, he was a local boy, and he headed off to the big city. And we've all heard songs like this, right? Where the guy's playing and he's talking, not singing, okay? And he headed off to the big city, and he found his fame and fortune. Lo and behold, whatever, right? I thought, oh, that's going to be pretty cool. Well, I go like this. I start. All right, I wanted to. Oh, wait a minute. Okay. All right, I wanted to. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. And then maybe 20 minutes later, I could start the sentence and then it went off the rails. And then maybe the next day, I, but it took me a while just so that I could play quality. So here I'm sort of arpeggiating this A minor. I'm not playing it as a rhythm chord. I'm arpeggiating it, right? So I'm like this. And that's taking some thought because I've got to pick the right strings to get that certain sound that I want. That droning kind of melancholy, well, here's what happened to the hero when he ventured off to the big city kind of thing, right? I couldn't do it. And it took a while. So singing and playing is just adding another ball to the routine overall. It's adding another motor skill into your arsenal, which up until now has only required you to think about this. That's it. Nothing else. Right? Well, Barb, like, hey, I use strumming patterns, so you're not an idiot. But it sounds like you're discovering what I discovered way back was that you think you're supposed to do something a certain way because the book told you that, or the guy on YouTube told you that, or whatever. And I'm not saying they're wrong, okay, at all. But I'm saying it's not this way or that way. It's whatever way works for you and whatever way works for the project or the overall sound that you're trying to create. And if that means not playing a prescribed strumming pattern the way it is, then so be it. A lot of things I do. So here's another issue that you might have noticed and maybe not. When you learn a song or you want to learn a song, you go to Google, right? And you get the chords and it shows you the lyrics and the little letter above the lyric, if it's right, of when to change to the G on the no, and the D is on the they or whatever, right? Okay. And then at the top, there's one area, it might say tuning, standard, key, C, and then it might say strum pattern. And it'll either have the arrows, like this, or it'll say down, up, down, up, down. Or it might even say 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and whatever. There's your strumming pattern. But then you start playing the song and you realize that, you know what? I think that I should strum this way in the verse, but in the chorus, I strum like that. A lot of ups. Or in the verse, it's down, 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 up, down, up, down, up, down, 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 up, up, up. But then in the chorus, it's all downs. Because that works for me. Works for my head and it works for my brain. That's how I'm going to play it. Right? Yeah. So Dan, you're okay. So again, I'm just picking up messages after the fact here. So Dan, you experienced the same problem as we all have, right? At first, it was like trying to juggle, right? You can't do two things at once, and you would stop or just crash and burn. And then after a while, it could have been a day, a week. For me, it was longer than that. All of a sudden, okay. But now the quality of my singing was not good. None of us are good at the beginning. And the problem was, for me, I found it hard to improve my singing while I was still 75% focused on my guitar playing because it still wasn't where I thought it should be. So now the dilemma is you're still learning to play the guitar properly and smoothly, but now you're learning to sing as well, and that needs work. So now your brain is trying, and your motor skills are trying to help your strumming and refine it. And it's also trying to, hey, yeah, hey, yeah. And you got to do two at once, and it's very difficult. Okay? So what I did for that was I tried to play and sing together most of the time, right? But when I realized, like I've got to start working on my voice because I'm 4 years behind or 3 years behind. Actually, it was probably like 2.5 years. So those first 2 years that I quit guitar twice after a year each time, I had started to sing towards the end of the second, before I quit the second time. So when I came back, I realized that I needed some dedicated time for singing. So what I started to do is I just started to get like these karaoke things, listen to YouTube, TikTok or whatever, or even the radio, okay? Meaning like Spotify, where I would take a song and I would just play it in my ear with my headphones on, and I wouldn't play my guitar. I would hold my guitar. I think that's very important. Even though you're not playing it, you should at least hold it because it at least gives your brain a little something. Okay, we got to at least let the guy hold his guitar. Okay, and the other 88% will be towards your singing. So, anyways, I would hold my guitar, and I would have the song in my ear, and I would sing into a microphone so I could get the right kind of vibe, and I'm not straining my voice, and I would just sing along to the radio. Now think about this. A lot of us have been doing that our whole lives. In the car, they stabbed it with their steely knives, right? We've been singing as we're driving forever. So, but that allowed me to concentrate and listen and think about breathing, what I had to do to get that right note, get my pitch. Think about my pitch. Am I on pitch with Neil, or am I on pitch with Mick, or whoever I'm singing along with at the time? And that allowed me to work on my singing without having to worry about my guitar playing. Okay, and then of course I bring the back together when I think I've improved enough or whatever. But I mean, that was just what I did. It doesn't mean you have to do it. In fact, the best way is probably every day to just play your guitar and sing something into a mic. Keep singing and playing till you don't have any mic. Okay? But it's very difficult. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. But once you do it, it's one of those things, once you do it, you look back and go, oh, geez, that's not very hard. um, yeah, humming was good. Whistling, even better. Because now we're all different, right? But I found humming to be easy for me. Like I could hum along. I could kind of do that. But whistling is actually very close to singing, right? Let me explain why. Because when you whistle, in order to whistle, you have to force air up and out. And then you use, the little lips, right? You use that along with other stuff going on here that I can't explain. I'm not going to pretend I can. But you are shaping the pathway, the airway, so that when when the wind comes out, it makes a certain sound. Okay? When you sing, think about it. The basics of singing are fortifying your diaphragm, because it's a muscle, training your diaphragm to take in air and push that air up and out through what you would call your voice box or whatever, your vocal cords. And not only that, you'll see certain singers, they make certain, like, there's a thing your mouth does, and there's a reason for that, and it's the way your tongue lies and the way it opens. If you lift your head up and you have your tongue, then you open up your throat and you're going to get balls deep. No, I mean, again, I can't explain it that well. I'm not a vocal teacher, but there's things, physiological things that are going on with the muscles that allow you to take that air, form things, and bring it out as a voicing, right? So whistling is very similar, because that's exactly what you're doing. Without the air coming up, well, there's nothing coming out. And if the air isn't strong enough coming out, well, you're going to get like a, and if this end of the spectrum isn't properly shaped, right? You're going to get, so it's all these things working together to create right? Okay. So I'm compressing, pushing, and shaping to make a whistle. Well, that's what vocalists do. That's how you sing. You bring it out through the diaphragm, force it up, and then you manipulate it with your vocal cords and the shape of your mouth and all that stuff that's going on in your throat, and you get the ability to do something with it. Now, I haven't warmed up or nothing, so bear with me, but you see what I mean? It's very similar. So that's why humming's good, but humming's to start out, and then you should start whistling before you lyricize. That's in my opinion. Okay? Yeah, that's good for you, Randy. That's a good song for you, because it's three good chords, well, plus that little seventh, but it takes the pressure off the singing, because you don't have to sing well, because that song it's like a joke song, right? And they play around with it, and you can do that too, right? Yeah. Right. So, uh, Dan, that's what I was saying earlier on when I wrote this song where I wanted a talking intro, and I was already singing at that time. And when I started doing it, I couldn't do it. I couldn't I couldn't tell a story. I couldn't go and keep my guitar playing where I wanted it to be, and make sure that I sound, even though I was talking, I wanted to make sure that, I wasn't off key, or that I was strong enough that it would be sound right and crisp. And you're right. Just doing this. So I remember this guy Matty, and he left the small town for the big city, and oh, absolutely, I would crash and burn after about 3 or 4 words, just stop dead. So, you know. Dan, this is what I do. Pearls of wisdom. That's a good one. But and well, you know what? Okay, so perfect segue for some selfless, shameless self promotion. All right, so yeah, you can see I have a little channel here, and it's nothing crazy. And it's for what we're talking about today. It's for people that want to get started playing guitar. If you think that I can help, uh, and you want to support it, there are really two ways to support. The first and best way for you is to hit the subscribe button, because that tells YouTube that I might be a somebody, even though we know I'm not, but I might be a somebody. And that's good because that helps them decide maybe they can show my stuff to other people that don't know I exist. All right? That is first and foremost. In fact, that's really the only thing I ask as far as support. You know, you'll be notified when I post videos, which is shorts pretty much every day. I have something to post, a little short, little tip, little something. And then usually once or twice a week, I do a full-length video where we do what we're doing now. We take a topic and I just kind of break it down and show you in my way of how I dealt with this and how I learned things. And so by all means, if you would like to be a part of that, please hit the subscribe button. That's it. Or, share stuff, comment on videos that I post. That all helps in this world of bizarre YouTube, you know. So anyways, thank you for that. Yeah, and look, I want you to understand, everybody here, that I am nothing spectacular or special. I am, maybe some of you here, I'm a little bit ahead of you. And what I mean by that is I'm no better. I've just been at it a little longer. So certain things to me are already second nature because I've been doing it so long. And that's why I always say, just play your guitar. If you play this guitar in some way every day, you're going to get better. But there's no quick secret. There's no quick solution. There's no special thing you're going to download. There's no course you're going to take. There's no link to click on. There's no hidden codes or cheat codes. There's no chords that only the pros know. There's no notes that only the pros do. There's way they play those chords and ways that they use and play those notes that we don't because they're at that level. Just like there's ways when we hit a golf ball, there's ways that Tiger Woods hits a golf ball that makes it do something that we can't do. For sure. Right? But other than that, we're all starting out the same. And where we take it, we're taking the same information, we're taking the same, here's how you do it. But what you make of it and where you take it is completely up to you. And I mean completely. So the more you play, the more ballsy you get and take chances and risks and aren't afraid to jump outside the box, the better you're going to get. And the beauty of this, again, what I always say, is there obviously are levels, okay, as we go. And I usually explain it this way. We start out in boot camp, and we play the basic chords, the 8 beginners chords. 9 if you include the cheater F, which isn't technically an open chord, but we sometimes treat it that way because it helps us not play this. We don't have to play that F. We can play that F instead. It's a lot easier. So 9 chords, right? 9 beginners chords. Okay. You don't need anything else, and I've often told you that. You need those 9 chords, and eventually, when you get good enough, this, capo. Between your 9 chords and a capo, you can pretty much play any song out there. Not 100%, but pretty much. In fact, for most of us, you'll play any song you ever want to play, okay? Knowing things like bar chords, fantastic, but not necessary. If you know your 4 bar chord shapes and you can play comfortably bar chords all over the neck, then now you can literally play any chord pretty much imaginable other than the real, really advanced jazzy kind of chords. You can play anything, okay? But you don't need that. You need your open chords and a capo. And if you go no further than that and you get your skill level, right? Your guitar foundation, left hand, right hand, ear, brain, and you work that. The way you touch, the way you flick those strings, not too much, not too soft, just right. Let things ring out, trust your ears. Add that to your chord playing. One of the ladies on Monday or Tuesday pointed out things like, you know, little embellishments on your open chords, like hammer-ons and pull-offs and little things that you can do to make your open chords that you know how to play, but you're still refining, or even if you've already refined them, adding to them. Little things you can do to that D or the G or the C, right? We often hear about seventh chords, and people think, oh, now I got to go and learn all these new. Well, no, just learn it as you need it. So if I've got a C and I want to put a pinky somewhere, like there, look at that. I just put one pinky right there on my C chord. I got a whole different chord. There's the C, there's the C7 or C major 7 or whatever that was, C7. Okay? Just by doing that. So now if I speed it up, I got that going on, and I can use that just by putting one pinky on one string. I don't have to learn every seventh chord on the library. I just got to do it on the C for now, right? And then maybe somewhere down the line, I'll add the D7. Little things like that you can do, right? So we know that that's the evolution, the natural evolution, is start in the beginner's chords and just slowly get better and better and better. And again, like I've always told you, the biggest mistake beginners make is they fall into the beginner's traps. And that is when you're at that level of playing your, 4 or 5 chords, maybe more, maybe all 8 or 9 of them, and you're doing okay. Well, instead of hanging around longer and polishing those chords, doing what has been suggested and what I've mentioned about the little hammer-ons, pull-offs, little things you can do, using a capo, stuff like that, people jump too quick into more serious stuff like bar chords, power chords, triads, and all this kind of stuff, and you don't need it. It's just, all it's going to do, it's going to set you back in the short term before you get long-term gain. And sometimes that setting back in the short term can throw all the progress you've made can throw it off. It could put doubts into your head because now all of a sudden you went from sounding pretty good playing your open chords to, well, crap, playing bar chords that you haven't figured out yet, or triads that you don't get, or you keep, you just can't finger them. You don't know the shapes like you do your open chords. Whatever the reason. And that can affect us mentally. And if it affects us mentally, like it did with me, I got to the point where every day I picked up my guitar, trying to learn these new bar chords of the day, okay, and never sounding good, never sounding right. And I just got sick of it every day, hurting my hand, feeling not right, sounding terrible. I just said, you know what, today I'll just leave the guitar there and I'm not going to pick it up. And then that became 2 days, 4 days, a week, 2 weeks, a month, 3 months, and now I haven't played for 4 or 5 months. And I'm done. I'm officially quit. Okay? So don't take on too much. It's a natural evolution. I think we all know that. Stick to it. And you will be rewarded in the least amount of time. Okay? When you get a foundation, I promise you, when you decide to learn things, you're never going to be like you were day one, where it felt like you had 2 left hands and 2 left feet, or 2 left feet for your hands. You just couldn't do it. It just wasn't there. Right? And then, you risk, every time you take on a new technique like bar chords, power chords, triads, whatever, you're risking going back to where you fought so hard to get out of, when you really don't have to. Continue on your open chords for another few months, or a year, or years. Make them the best they can be, right? Yeah, you know what? uh, Nothing wrong with that, Dan. It's pretty much my only F too. Um, I use two Fs. I use this F, which is strictly it's a triad. It's just three strings, right? One finger in each fret on the C, on the A, and on the F. And those are obviously the notes in the F chord, F, A, C. This would be a natural triad because the root note, F, is the lowest note of the three. Yeah, F, A, C. This would be a natural triad. Okay? So I play that a lot. But I also play it where I bar these two strings, the first two strings, like this, and I put my... So I play that. Now the only difference between the two, and I've explained this before, we're still only playing F, A, and C. This way, we're playing F, A, C. That's it. This way with the bar, we're playing F, C, A, F. And if I throw my pinky up here, okay, now I'm playing F, C, A, F, C. I'm still playing A, F, and C, but I'm playing more of them. So now it's going to sound thicker and richer than just this three-note F. Okay? That's the only difference. Both of those shapes I can move up. So in other words, here's my F, there's my G, there's my A. If I play just the three, I can go F, G, A, as long as I only play those three strings that I'm fretting. So there's nothing wrong with that F that you're playing. Okay? Do I play the bar chord? Now remember, when you're in this position here, with the two fretted here, and the A there, and the F here, and we're going to bump that up and add the C. So there's your F. Okay? If I take this thumb and put it here on this, well, there's my F bar chord. That's this right here. Exact same. Because the bar here, between the thumb and the finger, is not necessary. Because it's doing nothing. Look, listen. This is the notes behind these fingers. Just like here, behind the nut. It's not musical. It's just noise. Same with here. Because once the finger is down, that's where the vibration stops. That's where the note is. So anything behind the fingers that are pushing the string down aren't going to ring out anyways. Okay? So you can play your full F bar chord like this. Now, next time you watch guitar players, you may have already noticed it. Like, why does it look like his thumb is all the way over? Well, that's exactly what he's doing. Okay? There's my F, G, A, F, G, A, F, G, A. It's all the same. It's just that the bar chords and those chords where they hang the thumb over like that are fuller sounding, but they're all the same notes. There's never a wrong time to learn guitar. Yeah, I'm black. Perfect, Dan. That's exactly right. You can start learning guitar at any time. And the only difference is, the only caveat to that, I would say, is if you want a career in music, now I'm not talking about sitting with an Apple and a garage band and downloading all these piano parts and making songs. I mean, no offense, but anybody can do that. What was the thing I read somewhere? Kanye West plays no instruments and has like 25 Grammys. Somebody else plays 6 instruments and has written how many songs, gold, and has no Grammys. I saw that. I don't know who that person was, who they were referring it to, but that's not what I'm talking about here. Okay, what I'm talking about here is if you want a career in the music business, uh, in any capacity, just like if you want a career as a doctor, electrician, bricklayer, plumber, professional athlete, whatever that is, okay? You've got to dedicate as much time as possible. Well, 10,000 hours, isn't that what they say, like 10,000 hours to get good at something? Well, think about how many years 10,000 hours can be, depending on how many hours a day you put into it. So, to answer your question is you can start playing guitar at any time. I personally didn't start till I was 50. You can start at any time you want, okay? But if you aspire to be in the music business and to make money or a living off of your music, then you really should start as young as possible, because it could easily take you 15 to 20 years to really be top notch at what you're doing. And it's definitely going to take you 10 years. Almost guaranteed that. But again, the younger you are when you start, you pick up things quicker. Your mind is more of a sponge. Your fingers move better. Everything moves better. You can practice longer. You can practice harder. Everything is just better when you're young. Okay? So you might shave a few years off of that. But for the most part, that's what you're looking at. So the answer is start anytime. If you just want to have fun and you want to be a good hobby guitar player, okay, start anytime. And you'll get out of it what you put into it. But if you want a career in music, start as early as possible and play as much as possible. Right? Barring the high E. So, yeah, okay, so are you meaning, let's say you're playing a G bar chord. You talking about that high E right there? I just want to make sure, because some people call this the high E because it's the highest string, but it's actually the lowest string, but it's the highest on the, right? But if you're either one, I understand what you're saying. But I think you might mean this one down here. And to be honest with you, it's a very, very common issue with not only you, I'm the same. I'm hit and miss on that. Okay, so make a bar chord, make your favorite bar chord, whatever your easiest one is to play. This one to me is the easiest. It's right in the middle of the guitar. This one is obviously the hardest because it's the furthest away from your body. So it requires that you do a little, you got to twist here at this joint, you got to twist at your elbow, and you got to sort of move your shoulder to kind of get in the right angle to play that bar. Okay? Uh, yeah, okay. So if you cannot flatten your finger, okay, so there's two things you can do. Okay? And I got this from a pro. There's a fellow named Stephen Faring, and he's in a band. He's on his own, but he's also, and you can Google it, Stephen Faring, F-E-A-R-I-N-G. He's also known for being in a band called Blackie and the Rodeo Kings. They also tour as the Rodeo Kings. So Blackie is either him or somebody else that when they join together again, they're Blackie and the Rodeo Kings, right? That's right, Terry. All right, so that's right. So there's a few things that, like, everybody's throwing out things, and they're pretty much all right in that a lot of things depend on whether you can bar properly. First of all, your physical being. Okay, I know somebody that, and I'm kind of the same. When I play my bar, this finger looks curved, right? Like, see how it looks kind of curved, and sometimes even more. It's just the way things move. I know, and I have a little bit of arthritis in my knuckles. So I know people that for that reason, their bar looks like really weird. Like, where's your B minor? And they'll play this. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, that's not a B, but it works for them, right? So in your case, the issue is probably, or I know what the issue is, and this comes from Stephen Faring, because I asked this question as far away from him as I'm sitting from my tablet right now. And I said, I just, he plays a lot of bar chords. He was doing a little gathering thing, a little workshop, and I said, I have a problem. I can't get my bar chords, no matter how hard I try, to ring out properly. And he just laughed and he said, nor can I, right? Which I was a little bit shocked by. So let's take our G and we play each string. And I think what you're talking about is when you get here, right there, right? Okay. That's the problem. Well, he just said, you know what I do? And I said, well, like, what do you do? And he goes, I just don't play those strings. Now, that might sound so silly to say, but think about it, right? You play, let's take the G bar chord, and it is very difficult because you've got to, with this finger, you've got to get, you don't have to get these strings, because remember, after these strings, look, you don't get any musical notes, you just get noise. Because, again, the note, once the string is fretted at that spot, that's the note. Anything behind that, it's just like here. Doesn't mean nothing. So the function of the bar is to fret the strings that are still open behind your shape. In this case, the E shape. So when you put your bar down, your goal is to get that root note up here. After all, it's a G. There's your G root note. But the next two we don't have to worry about because they're fretted here, right? So back here, you get this noise. It's not right? So we got to get this one note here, and we got to get these two notes at the bottom. And that's it, right? So you have two options. One, like I just explained with the F, instead of playing your bar chords with a full bar, you just play them like this. And you sacrifice the one note. Now remember, a chord is the same note over and over. Okay, so in this case, we're playing a G bar chord, but all we're really playing is a G here. We're playing a D here. Okay, we are playing a G here. Okay, and we're playing a B here. We're only playing G's, B's, and D's. That's it. We're just playing a lot of them, more than one of them, right? So this bar is taking another G. So all we're doing is if we do this and we put our bar on the bottom too, we are playing what? A G and a D. Here, right, we're playing a B with our middle finger. Here, right, we're playing a G, and here we're playing a D. There's no E's, there's no F's, there's no whatever. There's only those three notes. So if we decide not to bar and just do this, we are still playing the same chord. We're just playing it minus this deepest root note. And like I said earlier, we can replace that with our thumb. A little tricky at first, but you'll get it. Okay? So we're actually hanging our thumb over to fret that note like that. So just so you can see what I'm doing. Right? There. Okay? So there's the thumb fretting that note right there. The G, the root. Okay? Everything else is the same notes being fretted as your full bar chord. Okay? So there's your first way out of it. Okay? Is to just say, you know what? I'm not going to worry about the bass note, and I'm just going to play my bar chord like this. Now it takes a little while to, because you've been training yourself to land on this shape all the time, right? Now you got to train yourself to land here for your bar chord. Okay, now the second way, which really blew me away, was he said, and again, now that you've heard the explanation that I'm only playing G's, D's, and B's in that G bar chord. That's all I'm playing. So keep that in your head. So now he says, well, if I'm playing this chord, what I'll do is I will just play the first 4 strings of the chord. So I'm barring everything. So if I go down the list, these 2 aren't properly barred. Could you tell? There's my bar chord. Am I playing those notes or not? And if that theory works for a touring recording artist professional, it's going to work for me and it'll work for you. So again, even if it's an A, just strum the bottom 4 strings, meaning the first 4 strings from you. Okay? Yeah, we were talking about that earlier. Someone was asking about low-end guitars, not low-end, but cheaper budgeted guitars. Now, I'm not saying yours is because I don't know the model number, but people threw out, and I agree, that for bang for your buck, Yamaha guitars are great entry-level guitars, and they also have really good guitars on the high end too. But for that sort of cheaper alternative, you can't go wrong with a decent, cheaper Yamaha guitar. But so anyways, yeah, Catherine, look, that's the whole thing, right? When we're learning anything, in this case, guitar, and in a way, this was kind of what held me back for the longest time, was I was so obsessed with making sure every single thing was just like the book that you lose track of things and you don't know any better because nobody tells you, right? And it wasn't until I heard it from a professional that, you know what? I haven't played all my strings in a bar chord for years, he said. And again, I just go like, if that works for a professional that's making albums, then I'll adopt the same philosophy. Now, don't get me wrong. I always try to play my full bar chord, but you heard it right there. Like there's something missing at the top end of that. So if I get a wind and it's not coming good, I'll just play the first 4 strings. And I challenge anybody listening. Okay, I could play a song, and I challenge anybody to say, "Hey, wait a minute, whoa, your G doesn't sound right. Your F isn't right." That has never happened, and I don't think it ever will. Okay, so that would probably be the easiest solution because what it does is it doesn't disrupt what you're learning. You can still learn to put your bar up, okay? Because one day you might rectify that, right? It's still possible that you will figure out, like I do. Look, here's a good one right there. There's my F. Well, everything's ringing out there. No problem. But for me, it's probably 7 times out of 10 that I hit a really perfect bar chord. And then the other 3, I get clunkers down there. So when it really means something and it matters and I'm playing with other people, I'm just going to play the 4. Thank you very much. Right? So give that a try. But if you want to try that other one too, that works really well too. So it's the bar, but you don't put the bar up. You just fret those first 2, those strings you're having trouble with. Yeah, string action, all that stuff, right? If the strings are too far away from your body, right? That's usually okay. You're usually safe on a G and an F, or if you're on the other shape, C, and maybe the D might be okay. Your B flat, your B, your C, you should be okay. But when you start getting up here and you've got a big gap between your strings and your board, yeah, it can be a problem, right? Um, a G demolished. That's a good one. I never heard that one before. Hey, what chord are you playing? A G demolished. uh, I'm sorry if I think I've got most of the messages as they've come in. Oh, hi, Red. Nice. Um, yeah, nice. That's always a great time when you're going to get your first, not first guitar, a new guitar or a first guitar, don't matter. Yeah, that's always a great time. I love that time. And I love it so much that I think it was this guitar. When I bought this guitar, I loved the feeling of buying the guitar, but not buying, like the lead up to it, that I didn't buy it for months. I was so into going to the different record or the music shops and playing all the thinking, okay, today's the day, this is the one, and then not pulling the trigger because I didn't want that experience to end, right? Of buying the new guitar. And then I realized it's really what Randy said. Hey, it's only going to be one more out of 10 anyway, so you're going to get this experience again anyway, so just buy the one you like. But anyways, yeah, for sure. Remember, I mean, here's what I do, okay? This is a strategy that I swear by, and I have told so many people this, okay? And the feedback after was, Ray, I don't mean online. I mean in like personal circles of people that are going that I know they're going to buy a guitar. And I've even taken people. They wanted me to come with them when they were buying a guitar, usually the first guitar. And I say, look, here's what works 100%. You go in and you never, ever worry about brand names and never, ever. I mean, the brand names, it's in your face, right? You pick up a guitar, it's the first thing you see. Martin, Gibson, Ibanez, whatever. But don't look, I have the tag on them. Usually it's hanging down. Don't look at it, okay? Ever. Don't look at it. Just pick the guitar up and play it. And if you only know 2 chords, play those 2 chords on it. Because what's happening, remember, you're learning guitar or wherever you are in your journey, right? The more you know, the better your ears, right? But when you're starting out, you only may know 2 chords or 3 chords, and you know how those chords sound. So make sure you play those chords on your guitar. Don't look at the price, the label. Don't look at any of that information, okay? Just play the chords that you know and listen. How does it feel? How does it sound? Right? And then say to yourself, okay, I've got an impression of first impression of this guitar. Either it's nice, it's deep, rich. Oh boy, is that ever nice. Okay? Or it's kind of, I don't know, it vibrates and it's kind of tinny sounding and I don't know, right? And always take a tuner with you so that you can make sure that the guitar is in tune. So once you've got that impression, that first impression, right? Okay. Then look at the price. So, for example, I'll play some chords on a guitar and I'll think, wow, what a sweet guitar. The feel, the sound, everything's great. And I'll look thinking, oh, this is going to be a real nutcracker. And I look at it and it's $500, $600. I'm like, holy jumping, this sounds great for $600. And on the other end of things, you're playing a guitar, and there's a brand that this always happens to me with, and I mean always. And I'm going to say it, and I know I'll never get any kind of deal from them if I ever get that big, but I'll be playing it, and I'll go, what a tinny, crappy piece of crap this sounds like. Like, this has got to be the cheapest guitar here. and I turn over the price and it's $3,800 or $4,000 or whatever. That brand, Gibson, all the time. They're acoustic guitars. There is one other brand, but they don't boast high-end guitars. They are low end, and that's Fender acoustics. I've never played a Fender acoustic that I've liked. And I've tried them when I go to the stores. I pick them up, try them, and I'm like, what a load of crap. And sure enough, you look at the price, and yeah, pretty much it's a load of crap. Okay? But the one brand that I find that I think is crap, and I turn it over, and it's so expensive, is usually Gibson. Um, that's my advice to you. Because what happens is you tend to sort of think, okay, I'm playing a Martin, it's going to be quality and it's going to be expensive. But sometimes, or I'm playing a Whistler guitar. Like, I don't even know if there's such a thing. I'm just making it up. A Whistler guitar. So you might think, oh, this is going to be a piece of crap. And you kind of already got your mind made up that it's going to be a piece of crap, a cheap piece of crap, right? You're best not to do that. Just pick up the guitar and play it, and play what you know. If it's only two chords, play those two chords, because you've got to, in your head, you've already got how you're sounding now, and then look at the price. Trust me. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The pinch method, absolutely. That's, you know, um, that's in a way kind of, it's the standard way to teach, and how I think they teach you how to play bar chords is to get your thumb right. You don't want your thumb up here. You don't want it down here, but you want your thumb in a proper position so that you're actually doing this, right? And you're absolutely right. But even with that, like there's my bar. It's good, right? It's good. All the strings are ringing out on that one. But again, that's my 7 out of 10, right? Now the other 3 times are probably going to clunk the bottom, right? So, but you're right, yeah. Um, Theoretically, you should try to keep your bar straight, obviously, right? Even pressure. And a lot of times that does depend on where your thumb is, and even more importantly, where your elbow is. Get your elbow in tight. So as you move up the fretboard like this, your elbow should, in my opinion, be right. That's what works for me, get right underneath. And I even play that way, like when I'm playing notes and scales. I get my elbow right in here like this. And that allows my fingers, for the most part, to be straight up and down, which is what you want, right? So now I can put them here. Now, as I go to the F, things have to change, right? So what I tend to do is I tend to move my elbow out just a little bit, just to keep that straightness. And then as I move down, my elbow comes in and I move everything down. But at the end of the day, it's trial and error, right? So. String action, yeah. Hey, no problem, Dr. Squirrel. I hope that nut house is doing just fine. Uh, Deep Nell Collins. Okay, you know me? How you doing? uh, you're correct on that. Uh, yeah, certain woods for sure, absolutely. And if you're in a good guitar shop, they should point that out to you. That certain woods, tone woods, affect the voicing and the tone you're going to get. Absolutely. Certain woods. I'm not an expert on woods. Mine is Indian rosewood, as far as I know, is Indian rosewood, and there is another. is it Sapel? Maybe I'm not quite sure, but it's apparently a very well trusted and well documented tone wood. And I've always been happy with my guitar. My guitar needs a bit of work right now. I usually take it in at the end of the winters here and have it sort of rejigged and reset up, and I'm due to do that. So right now there are certain parts of my guitar that are a little bit out. The average person probably wouldn't know, but I know. And not that I'm above average, but I know because I'm playing it. And I've had people say, "Hey, your guitar, are you okay? Are you in tune?" I go, "Yeah, it's just something weird going on here. I got to take it in." So, um, yeah, like I don't like the Fender acoustics, but like I said, that's why there's chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry, right? But for the price, you can't beat them, you know. Um, and they are getting more and more used. That's for sure. Yeah, Sitka spruce. I think Sitka is the name. Sitka spruce. Um, yeah, it's I can't I do come on and play songs, but that's not part of this because I try to keep these up online so people can see that aren't here. I know the quality sucks with these live recordings and all that. It's horrible, but I keep them up. But if I play, I get a copyright strike, and then I either got to go and delete it, which sometimes also deletes the talking that the point I'm making, and then you lose the whole point of the video. I just delete the whole video, right? So that's why right now, and I don't think I could play that song anyways, but um, uh, yeah, composite guitars are sweet. They're I think a lot. Are you talking about composite or carbon? I think you might be talking about composite. Okay, yeah, no issues. I think you might be talking about what they call the lower end of like Taylors and Martins. They're made in Mexico now. Um, these guitar makers have things down pat. All right, so I mean, if they're doing it and using it, I mean, I've played a guitar made of a wood pallet, and that was the person's way of proving or showing that woods are important, but if you can play the guitar, you can play a guitar, no matter what wood it's made of. That was, sorry, that was the point, right? Um, but there's carbon fiber guitars and there's composite. I don't think they're the same thing. So technically, what you're meaning is a guitar that's not made of wood. I have no issues with that whatsoever. In fact, I have played a carbon fiber, I think it's called carbon fiber guitar, and it was one of the sweetest guitars I've ever played. And the beauty of it is, the good ones, um, you can leave them in the sun. You can, like they don't change. Like these guitars, I mean, if it gets too humid or not humid enough, they shrink and expand because the wood is so dainty. It's like a natural softwood, and it expands with your environment, right? That's why you're always having to tune. If you pick up your guitar after a couple days and you got to tune it out like sharper, that means your guitar has kind of like contracted. So the strings are now too long, and you got to bring them back up to pitch. If your guitar gets too humid, then it's the opposite. It swells, and that makes the strings tighter. So then when you start playing it, you notice that you've got to back off your strings to get back to the right tuning. Okay? So with a carbon fiber and probably composite, you wouldn't have those issues, right? Ah, there you go. Yeah, Sitka spruce. Yeah, ovations. I guess that's a perfect example. Those ovations they got some weird kind of thing going on, whether it's plastic or carbon or something. But all right, so I think I've got everybody's questions there. So yeah, I mean, I we kind of got a little off topic than what we were going to talk about, but that's okay. We'll save that. It's just usually on Thursdays I try to talk a little bit about, which I guess we did a bit, about playing notes and playing leads and scales and things, but that's okay. We can put that off. And I think we're only going to do another couple of weeks of the beginner show on Tuesday, and then we're going to keep the Thursday for the summer. But we're going to, because people are out and about doing other things, and we'll still talk beginner stuff on Thursdays. It'll be like an all-purpose show, but we'll also be talking higher-end stuff as well, right? And as you can see, we talk about guitars too. And we talk about singing and anything else that comes up, and we're still going to do some electric shows as well, do some electric guitar playing shows. But for the most part, I think we've covered quite a bit today, and I hope somebody's got, a few of you have got some little things that you can take away from this, okay? And for the most part, that whole thing with the bar chords is very, very good information. Now, I want to just make sure that you understand that I am not telling you to never play all the strings in your bars. That's not what I'm saying. Like, I'm doing it right now and it's all sounding good. All I'm saying is that at the end of the day, don't let something like you're having trouble fretting one or two notes on your bar chord. Don't let that stop you from playing your bar chord or from practicing your bar chord. Try your best, and if you still can't do it, then all I'm saying is, so that you can carry on and continue on being musical and playing songs and chord progressions with your new bar chords, just adjust it. Like I said, just adjust it to playing the first 4 songs. So I'll leave you with this, right? So why, if anyone says, oh, you shouldn't be doing that, right? Well, just ask them if they play power chords. Hey, do you ever play power chords? Oh, yeah, I play them all the time. Okay, well, look, this is how I got one guy, and he couldn't answer me. I said, okay, so you play power chords. All right, so look, this is a bar chord. This is a power chord. I haven't changed my fingers. This is a bar chord. This is a power chord. Bar chord, power chord. Bar chord, power chord. What's the difference? Well, simple. The bar chord, we're supposed to play all strings, right? Well, you can hear the clunk right there. There it is again. It's reared its ugly head. There's my good bar chord, right? And here's the clunk. There's your bar chord. The power chord is this. Here's the bar chord. Here's the power chord. So what's the difference? The difference is, on the power chord, I'm only playing 1, 2, 3. So I can take this finger off, the middle finger, off my bar chord, okay? I can take this off the bottom and just fret that note. So let me see, I'll show you what I got going on here. See, my finger is not barred, it's just curled around to play that one note, okay? So now all I'm playing is that note, the top of the bar, and these 2 notes, and I don't even have to play this note. I can just play these 2 strings. That's an A5 power chord. Now, if I bring the pinky back and put it where it should be, then all I'm doing is I'm playing the octave. So this is A right here. We go along 2, remember what I told you? 2 over and 2 down is the octave. So there's the A, 2 over, okay? 1 down is fretted, that's what we call the 5th note, okay? And then the pinky goes underneath that, and that's the octave note. So it just, again, remember we talked about chords, we're playing an extra A. So technically, that will sound a little thicker than if we didn't play that A and we just played these 2, right? So remember, I know you can't tell, but this is not on and this is not on. It's just these 2 fingers. and we're playing these two strings, that now is a power chord, A. If I do this, it's now a bar chord. If I only play 4 strings of that bar chord, it's still a bar chord. If I play all 6 strings of that bar chord, it's still a bar chord. All right, so I hope that helps, because you don't have to play all the strings in your bar chord. If you can, fantastic. If you can't, don't lose any sleep over it. Just play what sounds right. And for me, it's 4 strings. Until I get better. And then I'll play all 6. Or I won't. Right? Okay. So remember, power chord, same as a bar chord, just play 2 or 3 strings. So why can't I just play the power chord and just play the 4 strings? Well, you can. All right. Yeah. Remember those from way back? Those hand things, for sure. It'll all help. Okay? Yeah, hey, no problem. You're more than welcome. So just so you know, when you play back the recording, a lot of times it sucks. Like the I don't know what happens, but it doesn't come through very well. You'll find the picture might be a little more grainy, and a lot of times the sound is not good. But again, you can still hear and all that, and you're welcome to watch it for sure. Um, and if you hit subscribe, right, then you'll be advised every time I come online, and you'll be advised of all the new videos that I put out. I put out shorts pretty much every day, or at least 5 days a week, and then I put out at least 1, if not 2, long videos, and they can be on anything. I've done them on recording to your iPhone. I've done them on, microphones. I've done them on bar chords and chord I mean, you name it, right? If I think it's something interesting, then I put a video together that you can watch just like you do this, and actually try to, hopefully learn something. So if you can hit subscribe, thank you so much. For everybody else, and I also, by the way, I do come on sometimes on the weekends or in around these 2 shows, and I just play songs. I play cover songs, or I play songs that I've written, and there's not really any, teaching going on. I'm not a teacher, but there's none of that going on. It's just me playing. Sometimes I'll practice, and I just turn the camera on, show you how I practice and what I practice. I try to interact a little bit, but it's really just, you can be a voyeur type thing, right, and watch. So again, if you subscribe, you get notified every time I come on, right? And we're here every Tuesday and Thursday for a couple more weeks, and then it'll be just Thursdays for the summer. And all things guitar. I welcome any questions, comments, suggestions, anything that you need help with, send it along. Maybe I can make a video to help you out. And really, that's just about it. Thanks for your ongoing support, and we'll see you again soon, right? So as usual, I'm going to put on some backing tracks and just kind of noodle around for a bit and let the audience filter out of the auditorium. So. Thanks, Dan.
It's mesmerizing. Cleaning that greasy mess with Dawn Platinum.
And not even scrubbing.
Well, fluff my feathers. It cuts through the slimy stuff better than their old dish soap, removing 99% of grease. That's why only Dawn is trusted to save wildlife.
Nice. Let me know how that turns out, Dan.
Discover a new way to enjoy the
I'm actually going to one tomorrow,
smooth
too. I'm going to a
texture of
jam, and
Lindor
I'm going
chocolate.
to try and take some video, too, okay?
Melt into a moment of bliss with Lindor mini eggs from Lind.
What do we got here? Ooh. So in case anybody's wondering, all I'm really doing here is I'm running a little A note run, okay? And I'm kind of going backwards. So I'm starting on the A at the highest point. Usually we start at the lowest and we kind of, but I'm starting at the highest here. I'm just hitting the A. There's the root. And we know that it's always going to sound good. So if you ever get lost, that's where, if you know your fretboard, go to an A and you're good. Or go to the key note of the song, the root note. There's my A there, right? There's my A. A. That's all I'm doing, going from one A to the other. That's it. That's all I'm doing, is just working off the A's, okay? That was my fault, wrong string. See, it happens. All right, see you later.